But in the first century, the Torah was read on a trilineal cycle. This means that the reading of the Torah took 3 to 3.5 years to complete from Genesis through Deuteronomy. How long was Jesus' ministry? It was 3.5 years. Why is that significant? He walked them through each portion of the Torah to show them the deeper meaning. He was training scribes for the kingdom. I've had the honor of being part of the Chosen as a spiritual advisor from the very beginning. I had the joy of taking Dallas and several members of the Chosen team to Israel on a rabbinical study tour, and we explored the biblical, cultural, and Jewish background of some of the key people and places that would be focused on in different episodes of the Chosen. I review all of the scripts throughout the different seasons for biblical, Jewish, and historical accuracy. I love being part of the Chosen.
Just tell me about the first time you actually saw him.
Philip just said, "Come and see." And I did.
I'm just writing it all down.
Season 2 of The Chosen opens with John taking careful notes as he prepares to write his gospel.
Look, I don't know how to describe it other than he knew me before he knew me.
Go on.
I can hardly remember a time when I didn't know him.
I do want to get the eyewitness stories now, while we're together.
Isn't Matthew going to write something?
He's only writing about what he saw and about what Jesus told him directly. But I was there for things that Matthew doesn't know about. I was in his inmost circle. He loved me.
He loved all of you. You just feel the need to talk about it more often. You know that if you tried to write every single thing he did, the world itself could not contain the books that would be written.
Why is John's witness important? He presents the gospel in such a Jewish way that it's a powerful testimony to the messiahship of Yeshua. This is what John himself said about why he wrote his gospel. This disciple, who is eyewitness of these things and wrote these things, we know that his testimony is true. There are so many other things that Yeshua did. If all of them were to be written one by one, I suppose not even the world itself will have room for the books being written. Yeshua performed many other signs in the presence of the disciples, which are not written in this book. But these things have been written so that you may believe that Yeshua is Mashiach, the Messiah, Ben Elohim, the Son of God, and that by believing you may have life in his name. When I was searching spiritually, the book of John really impacted me. I had a personal encounter with the Lord that completely changed my life.
So, do you have a favorite passage from the first 5?
I suppose I love the beginning. I love how God simply spoke and the world came into being.
Yes. As David wrote, by the word of the Lord,
The heavens were made. You know, the Greeks use word to describe divine reason, what gives the world form and meaning.
I like that. And it is a favorite memory.
The opening of the Torah begins, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. In Hebrew, Bereshit bara Elohim. The Hebrew word for in the beginning is Bereshit. And it can actually be read as not in the beginning, but can literally mean in Hebrew through the firstborn God created. What does this teach us? That the world was created through the Messiah, which is exactly how John reads it in John 1:1. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was with God in the beginning. All things were made through him, and apart from him, nothing was made that has come into being. John 1:1 begins like Genesis 1:1, which starts with in the beginning. The second part of John 1:1 tells us that the Word was with God and the Word was God. In the Greek, the phrase was with God is pros ton theon, which can literally be translated was face to face with God. This is significant because a few verses later, John compares Moses to Messiah Yeshua. The Torah was given through Moses. Grace and truth come through Yeshua the Messiah. No one has ever seen God, but the one and only God in the Father's embrace has made him known. The book of John is known as the book of signs. The reason being is that John is structured around 7 miraculous signs, some of which are not recorded in any of the other Gospels. But why are the signs so important to this Gospel? One reason is that he is demonstrating that Yeshua is the greater than Moses. Listen to what Deuteronomy 34 says. There has not risen again a prophet in Israel like Moses, whom Adonai knew face to face with all the signs and wonders Adonai sent him to do in the land of Egypt to Pharaoh, all his servants, and all his land, by the strong hand and great awe that Moses did in the sight of all Israel. So 2 things made the prophet like Moses unique. God spoke to him face to face, a unique relationship, and unique signs and wonders. So one of the evidences of the Messiah, according to the Torah, is that he will perform unique signs as proof that he is the Messiah, the one who is the greater Moses. The prophet Micah also confirms this when he writes, "As in the days of your coming out of the land of Egypt, I will show them wonders. But of course, there is more." Another reason why the signs are significant is that Yeshua's miracles inaugurated a new order. He was restoring the order that had been lost due to the chaos sin caused. Yeshua's first miracle involved turning water into wine. This ties back to the first thing we read about in Genesis chapter 1 involving water.
Where will you start?
In the beginning, naturally. I'm just, not sure which beginning.
His birth.
Earlier. I thought about starting with Abraham, but still so much came before him.
What was before Abraham?
Noah,
And before him?
a garden.
Well, we could start there.
But I wanted to be known that he was much more than what can be seen or touched. What was before the garden? In the beginning, the earth was formless and void.
John goes back to the beginning of creation, as it says, "And the Spirit of God hovered over the face of the waters." The rabbis state this alludes to the spirit of Mashiach, to the spirit of the Messiah. As it is stated, the Spirit of the Lord will rest upon him. So just like the prophet Isaiah says, the Spirit of the Lord would rest upon the Messiah, it connects back to the Spirit of the Lord that rested over the waters at creation, which ties back to Yeshua dealing with water into wine as his first miracle. Messiah Yeshua is the one who constrained the chaos at creation. And ultimately, because of his death on the cross, he overcame the power of chaos so that order, alignment, and blessing could be restored in our lives and ultimately in all of creation. When Jesus was on the cross, darkness occurred from the 6th hour to the 9th hour. The 3 hours of darkness happened because Jesus had to return to the start of creation, to a time before the light, when everything was formless and void, so that he could undo the chaos released by the fall. As the rabbi and apostle Paul wrote, after disarming the principalities and powers, he made a public spectacle of them, triumphing over them in the cross. Colossians 2:15. Only the one who existed from eternity, the Messiah, the eternal living Word of God, can overcome chaos and restore order. For his existence precedes it, and his power supersedes it.
What to do us the great honor of giving a reading from the scroll of Moses in our humble synagogue?
Of course.
Today, the Torah, from Genesis to Deuteronomy, is read in 1 year, along with a reading from the prophets known as the Haftarah. But in the first century, the Torah was read on a trilineal cycle. This means that the reading of the Torah took 3 to 3.5 years to complete from Genesis through Deuteronomy. How long was Jesus' ministry? It was 3.5 years. Why is that significant? He walked them through each portion of the Torah to show them the deeper meaning. He was training scribes for the kingdom. This Torah service originated in the 5th century BCE, about 444 BCE, when the Second Temple was rebuilt. Torah functioned as a unifying force, and this Torah reading began in the days of Ezra the scribe, who began to have the Torah read publicly, in part due to the threat of the Samaritan heresy, which actually differs in several places from the traditional Hebrew text. And so the Jewish leaders of Ezra's day wanted to make sure that the newly returned exiles from Babylon would not be led astray and splinter off into opposing heretical factions. Other nations have kings and queens that serve the function to help unite the people. The Jewish people have the Torah and the practice of it that unite them. As followers of Yeshua, Jesus, we're also united around God's word, both the old and the new, but most importantly, we're united around the living word, Yeshua, Jesus, our Messiah. There are more explicit statements about Jesus' deity in John than in all the other Gospels combined. A few examples include John 1:1 through 4, where we read the Word was God. And then in John 10:33, the religious leaders want to stone Jesus, and he asks why, and they say, because you, a mere man, claim to make yourself God. And Thomas said of Jesus, my Lord and my God. These statements about the Messiah and his divinity would have been a shocker to many first century listeners or readers of this gospel. They were expecting a prophet like Moses, who was going to be a great man, a messianic king and leader, but the Messiah was so much more. He was God made manifest in the flesh. John's gospel is also unique in its inclusion of Jesus's I am statements, which underscore his divinity. This is so important because not only does John begin like the Torah, but it also ends like it. These I am statements focus on the deity of Jesus and demonstrate that he is the promised prophet of Deuteronomy 34, which closes by saying, "There is not risen again a prophet in Israel like Moses, whom Adonai knew face to face." Moses had a special relationship with God, but Messiah would have an even more unique relationship with the Father. The I am statements, as well as the miracles that Messiah performed, prove that Yeshua was the promised prophet like Moses. It's no coincidence that John gave us 7 statements, and that's so significant. The reason being is that 7 is a number of completion and perfection according to the Bible and Jewish thought. Yeshua completely and perfectly fulfills the prophecy of Deuteronomy 34. Wow, I think that's so amazing. 7 I am statements, the number of completion. He came to bring about a perfect salvation, a perfect redemption. He comes as the greater than Moses to give us a greater exodus, to redeem us and to rescue us. And that is good news.
A reading from the first scroll of Moses. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth.
In the beginning was the Word.
And the earth was void and without form.
And the Word was with God.
And the darkness covered the face of the deep.
And the Word was God.
Then God said, "Let there be light." And there was light.
He was in the beginning with God.
And the light.
All things were made through him, and without him
Then God separated.
was not anything made that was made. In him was life, and the life was the light of men. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it.
Hey, I'm Mati Shoshani, and thank you for watching the TBN Israel YouTube channel. We hope this video gave you greater understanding of Israel and her people. If you haven't already, subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell so you never miss a video. We'd love to hear from you, so be sure to share what you've learned and ask your questions in comments below. And invite your friends to join the conversation.